Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking with Tom Jean Webb about his solo show, Wildflowers. Like always, I'm just going to pan around the room while we get started, while Tom comes in. And I am going to add him right now. Let's see. Here we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How's it going?
Good. I wonder if it's my connection or yours.
Yeah, I think I'm all right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thanks for coming in. So, hey, neighborhood store. So first, would you mind just giving us an introduction to this exhibition, to your show, to who you are?
Yeah, all right. So the show's called Wildflowers.
Okay.
So the premise of the show was that I wanted to take these three components, which was people, place, and performance, and look at the relationship of those three uh, in a show, but also within each painting, and how do you link those three things, and how do I tell a story with a painting, which is always an interesting part of painting, is like the narrative, the imagery or the point of the painting or the story of a painting, but how do you tell it in a kind of richer way without just using the surface itself. And so, the show is as much about the space that exists between the paintings as it is the paintings themselves. And I, my work has always been this kind of, it's almost like every painting is fed the next painting, right? There's never this sort of weird kind of gap or extreme break in the work. So it always felt like these were painted stills from this ongoing story that has been going on in my work for years. So I really tried to kind of embrace that, and kind of dedicate a show to that concept. So the idea that was that, are you right, David? So a friend of mine has just come online. Yeah, so I tried to embrace that and take it on as an idea of like, what if the show was, had this cinematic quality to it, so that it was all from this film, and that these were painted stills from the film. And that's when we obviously thought about the idea of a soundtrack and got Ryan to come in and create the music and a song per painting, and to help tell that kind of cinematic story.
Nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was going to ask about this whole idea of a fictional movie, how you put that idea together. And you already brought up Ryan working with you on this collaboration. What was that process like, working with a musician, talking about your work? Who had more of a hand in sort of how the music came out?
Well, one of the things that I really enjoy developing is a kind of a sense of openness towards the practice of making art, or my process of making art. So that I'm really enjoying bringing other people into that world, into the studio. And being an artist at times can be quite solitary. You're in the studio by yourself making work. So it's really nice to open that up. And so in terms of the music, I really gave Ryan free rein to interpret the paintings as he would like. I mean, I feel like the work kind of projects a certain kind of mood, and I think that lent itself quite naturally to a certain kind of music. But I think the very, very start of the process was me putting together a playlist of stuff that I liked and stuff that I found influential in making my work. But after that point, really, I left a lot of it to Ryan. He would come to the studio at least once a week, every week, and see what I'd created, and we'd chat about it, and you know what I'm doing with the work, and you know how I see, you know, where the point of the work lies with me, and also, you know, the idea of what this story could be. And then I left it to him to interpret it at that point, and do what he wanted to make. And then later on that week, I would go into the studio and listen to what he'd made, more out of curiosity rather than any sort of curatorial sense, because I was quite, you know, especially quite early on, I realized it was working. So I just to do what he was doing. But also, I'm always kind of interested in that relationship that your work has with other people anyway. So it was really nice to see what he took from my work and then him create an art form out of it. And then it was a really nice thought then for the idea of both of us just stepping away and leaving our two art forms to sort of communicate and exist together was a really nice thought. So I really wanted to try and give him as much of his own creative control as possible, basically.
And what came out of that is this album, which we will be pressing. It's available for pre-sales right now. And I can post snippets of the music, and I invite everybody watching this to come in, experience the work in person, but also listen to the music on our speakers here as you walk around the show. The two mediums really do go hand in hand. But that album will include a risograph too.
Yes.
What do you have in mind for the risograph?
I think it's going to be a piece of work that tries to talk of the show as a complete thing. So the people, the place, and the performance. It'll probably be centered around the two main characters. I'm thinking, you know, the corner painting, I think, is going to be the influence for the risograph that will come with the record.
Nice. Yeah, these corner pieces, there's two corner pieces and there's one window piece, and I really wanted to talk to you about those because people may not realize, I certainly didn't realize how much work goes into the engineering and just figuring out how to make the frames and the artwork bridge this gap. So there's that one. There's this wraparound corner piece. And then there's this window piece.
Yeah.
So another collaborative process, but this time with framers, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the frame is becoming more of an interesting thing for me because, well, firstly, not all painters frame their paintings, but I really like to do it because I feel like it gives them a sense of objectivity that I like the idea of separating it away from just I don't mean just a painting, but separating it from being a painting and turning it into more of an object. So that was kind of what started happening with the frames. I did a painting that had this fringe that hung off of it, and then I cut away part of the frame so that the fringe actually fell through that. And so that kind of, then I started realizing that the frame was such an important part of the painting. It gave it that physicality. So that was kind of, so then I wanted to incorporate, so rather than the frame be the sort of full stop to a painting, to actually use it to be part of the painting. And I knew early on that this show wasn't going to have any sculpture in it, but I wanted the paintings to be sculptural. So that part of my practice was still being used, but it was the merging of the two. And so, you know, looking at the framing of a painting and it started to make me think about the space of a painting and the way that we can play with that. And you know, I mean, I just talk about space a lot, but paintings are about implied space. They're these kind of portals into this fabricated world that you're painting on the surface of a canvas. And so the whole thing is 2D, but then I like the idea of playing with the physical space of that surface again. And that's the became these corner paintings.
Well, and you've got, all of these sort of breaking the fourth wall ideas, and it's not a piece that physically turns a corner like the other ones, but this piece incorporates this performance and this snake. It might be hard for people to see in the video, but actually sticks up off of the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on this whole piece? I mean, are these your footprints? This work is such a standout in the show. How did this get included?
That is actually me and my wife's footprints meeting in the middle there, and there's as with all work, there's a personal concept and a gallery concept, I guess, is one way of putting it. So for me, there was this. Me and my wife had been kept apart for nearly 2 years because of COVID. And so, she just managed to get here and we got married in the last couple of weeks. So I think there's a lot of that going into this painting. And then also in terms of like what would be considered more, gallery concept, I was interested in the idea that a painting is something that's flat on the wall. But the idea of looking at something flat on the wall and understanding that it's meant to be another space. It's meant to be a space on the ground, and obviously the painting would have been created in another way, in another space. And also, there was this idea that I would make work based on these landscapes whilst based in the UK. And so there were again these kind of portals to this other land that I wanted to get to, and I've been living here now for 2.5 years, I think. And I did this first iteration of these footprint paintings, and hung it on the wall and next to one of my landscapes, and I realised it was me being here and walking into my own paintings. It was like a completely different psyche on creating my work, because now I'm situated here permanently. Yep. And so it was this idea that I was looking deeper into what the artwork was, rather than making work about somewhere far away or getting to somewhere far away, that now actually I was there, and now it was time to actually investigate my work, my practice, my process, everything in a whole way.
The perspective of the painting changed from a gaze over a landscape to looking straight down. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And being present, and this new relationship with that landscape now. And so I really had this idea. It became apparent that I was essentially walking into my work, walking into my paintings.
Wow.
Yeah, which is a really nice kind of moment.
And the other thing that's changed about your work dramatically is the materials. I mean, you've always sort of used graphite and these other materials, but now it feels like they're all coming together. How did you get there?
Well, I think it's taken a long, long time, because there was once upon a time I made work that was very graphite based, very technical based, and I made a conscious decision to strip all the work apart, to break it back, break it right down to the means of its parts, to understand what I was doing and why I was doing it. I stripped it all the way back down to almost as minimal as I could make the work, turning it into these large kind of minimal puzzles of just shape and color. And I spent years sort of understanding that, and so now it's just like adding all the little bits back into it that I used from my past. And again, I think it's all about sort of finding myself in the work more and more and more. That the relationship with the work is getting richer, and so it's just bringing more of myself into the work, and things that have happened along the way, or things that I've learned along the way. And just looking at each, having turned it into these kind of minimal puzzles of shape, to look at each section and investigate that a little bit further. And
and I think that you know, just from hearing you speak about your work and how it can change play is
Yeah.
something that you always mention. Um,
Yeah, and I think it could, yeah, also, I mean, in that investigation is like understanding how to have as much fun with it as I possibly can. And so that's what's leading to these end results, because it's like I realize there's more time for me to spend with the paintings and more fun to be had with the paintings. You know, it's becoming yeah, it's much more of a process of a relationship with making the paintings. You know, that it's not just have an idea, replicate the idea, and move on to the next. It's about spending more time with the work and seeing how much how much fun I can have with it.
yeah. Well, that clearly comes through in this show. Um, the scale is incredibly impressive. The craft is impressive, but your work has so much energy, and I think that's the energy that you put into it. You're incredibly generous with every square inch of these canvases. They're beautiful. They're so impressive in person. I really hope that, you know, all of you who have listened, thank you. I hope that you can come in and see the work in person. The show is on view until January 22nd. Tom, is there anything else that you'd like to sort of add about the show before we go?
I think the yeah, I think just to reiterate what you said is that I can't get everything about the work over in an image on a phone, and so if people are able to go and see real life, that the work is a physical piece, you know, and it exists in a way in a physical space, and that's kind of how I'd love for people to experience the work. And so if they can make it to see the show, especially because it's about how one walks around the show physically, but also emotionally, moves from painting to painting and pulls all the different parts together, because there's lots of clues in the work that connect everything, and that happens with the listening as well, with the music. And so I just hope, and you know, art is about communication, and you know, I'm trying to talk to people when they see the work, and so if people go and however they experience it, I'd love to hear what they think.
Yeah. Well, it's been really a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you. It's an honor to hang your work. I'm heavily enjoying the show, walking around. The music is really a nice touch too. So exhibition is called Wildflowers. It's on view through January 22nd, and please come and see it. Tom, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye.
See ya.